Welcome, ladies, and I hope there are some gentlemen out there. I am Menopause Taylor, bringing you the state of menopause in the world today. Now, I am an educator, and I teach you about everything related to menopause. And I'm a nerd, and so I do everything the way a good nerd would do. And that means I approach topics in units, just like you did back in school. And the unit will cover everything you need to know, one item at a time, in order, so that you get an education that is stepwise and forms like building blocks so that you understand everything. And today, we are starting a great big unit on heart attack. And this unit will encompass 26 podcasts. And I will have you understanding heart attacks like you never imagined you could. So, bless your heart for being here. I guess everyone's heard that phrase, right? Bless your heart. That's why it's so apropos for today's greeting, because we are starting this whole unit on your heart. And you know, I have a book called Menopause, Your Management, Your Way, now and for the rest of your life. And these units are in the book. And so if you get the book, you can follow along and learn all this stuff very easily because you have the podcast to listen to and the book to look at. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see how I use all these props and things to help you visually understand everything. So the education is very, very complete. You will understand every bit of this in great detail if you do this in order and refer to the book. Now, in previous podcasts, I have already taught you that heart attack is the absolute most important thing about menopause. And you're going to really see that as we delve into this topic. So just sit tight and be aware that there's not going to be a single thing that I'll be overlooking. You will get a vast and thorough education on this, and it may very well save your life. So this first podcast in the heart attack series is about the paucity of attention we pay to heart attacks. I call this, we need more hype about heart attacks than about breast cancer. It's just the beginning of what you need to raise your awareness of the importance of heart attacks. So every woman, and every man for that matter, should watch this video. Should watch my videos and listen to this podcast and all the others that follow for months and months and months to come. I promise that you're going to learn everything you need to know about your heart at menopause. So, I love to start with quiz questions. So let's start with a fun one. And even if you don't like quiz questions, typically, you'll like this one because this one's kind of interesting. There is only one disease for which you can buy a postage stamp at the post office with the proceeds going to research for a cure. That disease is A, melanoma, B, lung cancer, C, heart disease, D, breast cancer, E, leukemia, F, Alzheimer's disease. You see, that's not my standard type of question. Did you even know that there was a disease for which you could buy a postage stamp? Well, there is. And that disease is breast cancer. Now, maybe you're wondering why I started this podcast in the heart attack unit with a question about breast cancer. Well, it's because the very first thing I want to do in this unit on heart attack is explain why you don't consider heart attack your biggest risk. You know how I simplify things for you? Well, the simple way to think of heart attack versus breast cancer is this. It's the difference between what's inside your chest versus what's outside your chest. What's more important, your heart or your breasts? Which of the two is more critical for life? Which of the two, if absent, means certain death? You see, that sort of puts the difference between them into perspective. But despite the fact that your heart is so much more important than your breasts, It turns out that breasts get a whole lot more attention. So it's great that breast cancer has a special postage stamp, but here's the dichotomy. According to the World Health Organization, 7 times more women die of heart attack than breast cancer. Almost 50% of female deaths are due to heart attack. So there is an imbalance in the scope of heart attacks and the attention that society pays to them, especially in women. Heart attacks have no geographic or socioeconomic boundaries, and 9 out of 10 women exhibit at least one risk factor for heart attack. Part of the asymmetry is due to the predominance of fundraising for breast cancer. There are nonstop corporate-sponsored fundraisers for breast cancer, runs for breast cancer, walks for breast cancer, even baseball games for breast cancer. Even though baseball is a game played and watched primarily by men, it has a breast cancer day. So the fundraising doesn't target just women. Breast cancer research receives more money than any other disease, despite the fact that it causes only about 7% of cancer-related deaths. As a result of the fundraising focus on breast cancer, women have the misconception that breast cancer is their greatest risk at menopause. But did you know that there are actually campaigns focused on women for heart attack too? Have you ever heard of the Red Dress campaign? It's all about heart attacks. It's been around for over 15 years and has doubled the awareness of heart attacks in women. But how frequently do you see red dresses? Did you even know red dresses signify heart attacks in women? What about the Pink Ribbon campaign? You're probably more familiar with it than you are with the Red Dress campaign. The Pink Ribbon breast cancer awareness symbol receives tremendous public and corporate support. How often do you see pink ribbons? You probably see them everywhere. On cars, on clothing, on products you buy at the grocery store. They're everywhere. So the preponderance of pink ribbons and the paucity of red dresses has you believing that breast cancer is your biggest risk. It isn't. Now, fundraising campaigns aren't the only problematic area. Hospital funds are inequitable too. For every single dollar that hospitals spend on heart attacks, they spend $12 on breast cancer. It is not at all uncommon for the breast cancer facility of a hospital to be much larger than the heart attack facility. Even though heart attacks are much more common and much more deadly, breast cancer gets much more space and attention. And even the medical profession itself has failed to emphasize the need for public funding for research on prevention and treatment of heart attacks. The mere fact that there are lipid-lowering drugs has caused both the scientific community and the public to ignore heart attacks. There's no pill to prevent breast cancer, but there are a bunch of lifestyle factors that can prevent it. The media plays a part too. There are 5 times more media pieces on breast cancer than on heart attack. News reports about breast cancer outnumber stories about heart attack at a rate of 2.6 to 1. And all this attention forms public opinion. And then public opinion influences your emotional responses and reactions to these two diseases. Try this. Survey all the women you know about heart attack versus breast cancer. Ask them which disease carries the most fear for them. Ask them which is more common. I guarantee that they'll answer breast cancer for both. That is, unless they're a student of my menopause university here. In a formal survey, women thought that they were much more susceptible to breast cancer than to heart attack. And they thought that breast cancer was the biggest killer of postmenopausal women. And they mistakenly thought that their family history was the biggest indicator of their heart attack risk. They also failed to realize that they have more control over preventing a heart attack than they do over preventing breast cancer. So, with fundraising campaigns, hospitals, doctors, and the media focusing so heavily on breast cancer and so lightly on heart attack, most women have no idea that heart attack is the most likely thing to affect them and kill them. You know, I have webinars, I give talks on menopause all the time, I've done seminars on menopause, and I find that women are completely unaware of the distortion between heart attack and breast cancer. They are always so shocked about how significant their risk is for heart attack. And they're usually relieved about how much less significant their risk is for breast cancer. So, if you've been brainwashed into believing that breast cancer is your greatest worry, I really hope you find some relief in learning that it isn't. Here are some statistics on heart attack from the American Heart Association. Now, granted, these statistics only apply to the United States, but they're still very telling. Cardiovascular disease, which includes heart attack, high blood pressure, and stroke, kills nearly 500,000 women just in the U.S. every single year. Now that figure exceeds the next 7 causes of death combined. More women die from heart attack than from all cancers, respiratory conditions, Alzheimer's disease, and accidents combined. Women are 15% more likely than men to die of a heart attack and twice as likely to have a second heart attack in the 6 years following the first heart attack. And when it comes to deaths at menopause, the numbers are as follows. 1 out of 2 postmenopausal women die from a heart attack. 1 out of 29 postmenopausal women die from breast cancer. So all the attention on breast cancer has led to great screening programs for breast cancer. Both self-breast exams and mammograms are very effective at screening for early breast cancer. But what about heart attack? How many women do you know who get a screening test that warns them about an impending heart attack before they have one? You see, all these things are linked. If we don't raise awareness of heart attacks, there won't be campaigns to raise funds for heart attacks in women. If there are no funds for heart attacks in women, there's no research on heart attacks in women. If there's no research on heart attacks in women, we're left with the research on men rather than on women. And if there's no research on women, we don't find good screening tests for women. Do you see how they're all connected? And all these distortions